This links very well to our next agenda item, which is a fireside chat moderated by Andréa M Maechler about future-proofing central banks. Andrea will be speaking to two true trailblazers in this area, Martin Schlegel, the chairman of the governing board of the Swiss National Bank, and Eddie Yu, the chief executive of the Hong Kong Monetary Authority. They will be talking about the forward-thinking strategies that central banks must adapt to stay ahead of the curve. Thank you very much, and Andrea, I now hand back to you and your panel. Thank you so much.
I'll be facing you. Hello, everybody. It's a great pleasure. Eddie Yu, Chief Executive for the HKMA, and Martin Schlegel, Chairman of the Governing Board of the SNB. We have heard it. Today it's a panel on future-proofing central banking, which is quite a daunting word. But we've also heard from, I thought it was very nicely said, from President Joachim Nagel, President of the Bundesbank, and I'm just going to quote him because, you know, the pace of change is accelerating, challenges we face become more complex. By the end of his talk, he talked about daunting challenges. So to navigate this environment, this very rapidly environment, we've also heard from Joachim that central bank must be proactive. They need to have a collective approach, and in order to understand how to leverage these new technology, but it also means to rethink. How do we operate? How do we collaborate? How do we manage the risk? So at the SNB, I'm sorry, Martin, at the BIS, at the BIS, we often stress that future-proofing central banks is not just about, as I mentioned it, adopting new technology, but it is really about thinking how do we integrate them in a way that reinforces the time-tested principle of stability, trust, and resilience. But it also means that balance about embracing innovation in a way that safeguards the core foundation, cultivating new skill, and also, of course, having the right foundation in terms of risk management. So we have here Eddie Yu from Hong Kong, Martin Schlegel from Switzerland. It's a very good reason why they're here, because first of all, you've been leading both of you, very pioneering projects, whether it's in the AI and in the tokenization landscape, we'll come to it, but also because both of your countries have something very important. You have a very strong legal and regulatory framework for managing digital assets and moving forward in the tokenization. So the first question I want to ask to both of you is really, from your perspective, what does it mean to truly future-proof your central bank in terms of governance, skills, making best use of the new capabilities, but also creating a culture of risk awareness?
Well, so, maybe I'll just start first. Sure. Well, at the HKMA, we've always been thinking about the fast-evolving landscape of technology. In fact, about 5 years ago, we started 2 projects in parallel. One is a comprehensive digitalization program across all HKMA operations, basically to future-proof the HKMA in technology. The second project is a fintech strategy for 5 years, between 2020 to 25, which is to future-proof our banking sector so that they will adopt the latest strategy. And in both programs, the main thing that we need to think about is, like what Joachim and you have mentioned, is the balance between innovation and risk. How to make the right balance, and they're slightly different in the 2 programs. Well, let me first start with our internal program. When we started that, we actually communicated to our staff through town halls, because it's for everybody. It's not for the tech teams, it's for everybody. We communicate a few overarching principles. The first one is that when you think about risk actually have 2 sides. There's always risk in introducing any innovation or even making changes to your systems. But in a fast evolving world of technology, there's also big risk for falling behind if you don't catch up. So one needs to think about risk in this way. Second, when we think about innovation, which is the other side of the equation, innovation alone may not be sufficient. The pace of innovation is also important. We actually encourage our staff, whether to, in our own internal program or in pushing banks, to think about being early adopters of technology. Just try it out. Because in our view, well, it's really the HKMA view, slow adoption or late adoption is not really innovation. It's really following the innovation. And these two views about innovation and risk means that the HKMA probably will need to take a more risk-taking direction. And that's actually not very natural or even comfortable for many of our central bank staff. It's not a culture that we usually have. But we still think that we need to, at least in the innovation area, we need to take measured risk, we need to allow failure, and we need to learn from these failure so that we can do better in the next project. For example, one of our early projects that we actually did together with Thailand was called E-Trade Connect. It was a failure. It was not a failure, but it was just not adopted by the industry. So we gave it up. But the E-Trade Connect actually leads to very successful projects in the subsequent areas, including the commercial data exchange, and also a new project called CargoX. It's really about how to use data to facilitate trade finance. So having failure is not an issue if you learn from it. And in our few years of experience, we've got three elements or three lessons that we can share with you in terms of how to make it work in terms of pushing innovation. The first one is that there's got to be a tone from the top. As I mentioned, not everyone, especially those in the regulatory teams, those who've been in central banking for 30 years, not everyone likes changes, especially if they feel that they are already very adequate and equipped to do their work. I've been doing this for the last 20 years. Why do you want me to change? So we need to articulate a very clear case on the need to innovate. The better thing to do is to just test case or use sandbox for some of the new tools, and which will yield tangible results. And then use these results to show to the other teams that, hey, this is what you can do with technology. So it's to convince everybody that it's actually good for the organization. The second thing is about talent, which you also mentioned. We need the people with not just the right skill set, but also the right mindset. Of course, we need to bring in new talents in tech areas like AI specialists, data scientists, et cetera. In fact, in the HKMA, we now have a stream of career for the technologists, so that apart from economists, regulators, we have technologists. But it's not enough. We need to equip all the other subject experts with some type of tech savviness. Whether you're an economist in research or you're a regulator in banking, we want everybody to be at least have some sense of tech savviness. And we actually have a series of programs to do that. One is, of course, to invite external experts to do what we call Fino Talks, a series of talks. And we also have what we call a tech community. Identify the tech champion in each department. There's got to be some young guys who are really into tech, and let them do the spreading work for us in their departments. And we also showcase success of the early adopters by having a digital day internally. And it's also important to get your tech people, at least that's what we do, get our tech people and IT people to think about themselves not as service provider. What used to happen is that the banking regulator, the monetary guys, they are the users. They direct you what to do. But now we're talking about co-creating technology tools for better use for business users. They're equal. So it's not one driving the other, but it's really co-creating. The last thing I want to mention is about the importance of the right tech stack and also the architecture. There's always a risk that the existing system may not be adequate or equipped to support innovation, whether you're talking about poor data or very segregated data pools, silo systems, cybersecurity, et cetera. So our suggestion in our experience is really to get it right from the beginning. What we did, actually the first project in our digitalization program was to create a organization-wide data lake, which is very granular. And for that to happen, you need to have very strong data governance, data rules, so that the data owners will be comfortable to put their data into the common lake. And we also revamped our IT system, IT platform to enhance cybersecurity so that we can use data better. And also, when you start this program, well, in our case, we're seeing people getting too excited. Different proof of concept, different pilots, everybody wants to do their own things. But we need a central control. You can't let people do their own thing using different systems. There's got to be controls and standards for the organization. So I'll stop here, I think.
No, but that's really fascinating, right? This is about technological innovation. You need the right infrastructure, but ultimately, a big emphasis is on the mindset. Yeah. And ultimately, it is about the people, right? How they drive it. So that's a really, really good insight. Martin, what is your experience?
Thank you. So the technological change is really rapid, and we have to future-proof ourselves to be ready. At the same time, as central banks, you have always to be also aware our mandate didn't change. And the mandate should really stay our compass in whatever we do. But I think, like talking about technologies, like three things are really important in our view. It's insight, its capability, and its engagement. Let's start with insight. So whenever there is a new development, as a central bank, first we have to understand it. Does it have an impact on the fulfillment of our mandate, for example? Or can we even use it to fulfill our mandate? For example, tokenization. So this can have an impact on the mandate, but you can also use it to fulfill our mandate. Then second, so this is insight. The second is capability. Of course, that's an easy one. We need the necessary skills here. And as an example, technical understanding of how DLT works or things work. And the last thing is like the engagement. So we always have to take our stakeholders on board. So insight, capability, and engagement. This is really important for future-proofing the central bank. I can do an illustration with a surprising example, and this very old-fashioned example. It's banknotes. As you might know or might not know, the Swiss National Bank has currently started to develop new banknotes, and their banknotes are actually high-tech. It's really technologically very advanced. And also there, it's quite interesting because technology on the one hand hurts us because it becomes easier to counterfeit banknotes. On the other hand, technology is also very good for us because we can develop new security features so they get more secure. So the insight is clear. There's an arms race between the counterfeiters and the central bank. Then the next one, capabilities. It's also clear because we need the capabilities to develop new security features. Of course, not alone, but together in collaboration with the technology providers and the firms that provide the banknotes. And then the last one is engagement. And also there, it's important that we engage with these firms that I just mentioned, but also engage with the public because introducing a new series of banknotes is a big undertaking. And we just finished a survey where the public could voice its opinion on the banknote, on the drafts of the banknotes. If I maybe turn more to electronic payments, which is also part of the mandate of the Swiss National Bank or of many central banks around the world, this really could have an impact on the central bank. A positive one, perhaps it's easier and cheaper to settle securities. But on the other hand, it can also have an impact if, for example, securities are no longer settled against central bank money, but against private money. This can have an impact on the implementation of monetary policy, on the ability to manage interest rates, for example. And of course, also, it raises questions about financial stability that we have to answer as central banks.
But Martin, let me, thank you very much. Let me push you a little bit, because it's interesting, right? You bring the very good example of cash, also payments, but that's not all you've done, right? As the chairman of the Swiss National Bank, since under your leadership, the SNB has also really pushed frontiers in advanced analytics, but also in blockchain technology. Right, so can you tell us a little bit more for monetary policy and financial stability purposes, but can you talk to us a little bit more also on these areas of work you've been engaging in?
Of course, so the SNB has now quite some experience with the blockchain technology, distributed ledger technology. The most, I would almost say, famous one is Project Helvetia, and here can give credit to you, Andrea, because when you were at the Swiss National Bank, actually you started the project. The aim of the project is to settle transactions with tokenized assets. And there are two ways to do this. So one would be for a central bank, so there are tokenized assets like bonds, equities, and so on. And as a central bank, you can also tokenize central bank money. So this would be a wholesale CBDC on the same platform, on the same blockchain like the assets. The other option that we explored is RTGS linked, we call it. So just we have the new platform where the tokenized assets are settled, and then on the other hand, you have a link to the existing system, existing RTGS system, and then you can settle the securities like this. So we had these two concepts. We started with the proof of concept first, and the proof of concept showed that both ways are possible. Then the second phase was an important one, because like the proof of concept, you can say is an easy one, it's more theoretical work. But then the second phase was where we really had this, we built the prototypes. It was the prototype phase. So there we really linked the new system with the core banking systems of some banks and also the Swiss National Bank. So this enabled us in the end to really do transactions. And this leads me to the third phase, which is the pilot phase. This is currently also ongoing, where we really can, on this platform, it's the SDX platform, it's together with the private sector, where we can settle bonds against tokenized central bank money, so wholesale CBDC. So to our knowledge, this is the first wholesale central bank digital currency on a blockchain. What's also important, because this was, in a way, it was a revolutionary project, so you need the support of the board. At the time, Andrea was in the board and supported it very, very strongly, so thank you for this. But of course, if you only have the board, this is not enough. You need also the expert levels. So we had really on the expert level, we had working groups where people from monetary policy were in it, from financial stability, risk management, banking operations, and so on. That because it's really something that touches the whole bank, and there you have to work together in the bank. And that can also underline what Eddie just said. You also need like a mindset that also failure, I also call it now failure because you use the word, is possible, because a lot of these projects, they probably turn out not to be successes. They will not be follow-up then in the real world. But this is not the problem, because as long as you learn something from these projects, they are a success.
So it is possible, Martin. I think that's what the SNB has shown, right? Is to really move into the future, right, while keeping the principles of stability and trust and future-proofing really the projects. So before moving to AI, I want to ask you, because Hong Kong is also known for doing a lot of work in the digital asset space, and in particular, you've done a number I'm not even going to go into, because you've done so many proliferous projects, but for instance, the project Ensemble is a very important one. So tell us how you future-proof your central bank in the light of these projects.
Right. We actually started to look at different kinds of blockchain innovations some 3-4 years ago. But blockchain covers quite a wide spectrum, from the more speculative crypto asset to the stablecoin, which we see more as a payment instrument, and to the more productive tokenized asset area. And we take a different approach to these. For crypto asset and stablecoin, the focus is more about regulation, more about putting the clear, transparent, proportionate guardrails to protect the customers and also to maintain financial stability, while leaving space for the innovators to come in and offer their services within our regulated environment. Because Hong Kong is a very open market, it's extremely hard to ban any financial products. So the better way we think about is to regulate. And our regulation is in full alignment with the FSB standards. There's no light touch, no partial regulation. It's comprehensive, and that's why we have a standalone legislation. And for crypto asset trading platform, we've put in a legislation, I thought last year, and the Securities Commission is the regulator because it's more like investment. For the stablecoin, we've just passed a legislation that's gone effective last month, and we're now inviting applications, and I thought people get overexcited about that. And we are the regulator. So again, the aim is really to provide clear, transparent guardrails with a platform that people can use. But when it comes to tokenized asset or tokenization in general, the approach is slightly different in that we are looking more at it as development and acting more as enabler or even facilitator. Our own tokenization journey actually also started here. About 3-4 years ago, when we had this project together with the BIS Innovation Hub called Project Genesis, where we did a prototype on tokenized green bond. And then 3 years ago, we took it into the real world by helping our government issue the first tokenized green bond. It was very early and almost a failure because the industry is not ready for it. So we issue a very sort of a token, 100 million, with just 2 investors. Because the asset managers, they don't know how to operate tokenized money. But last year, we did it again. It was scaled up to 800 million, which is a benchmark size. And we've got more than 50 investors by sort of plugging them into a traditional CFD, which plugs into the blockchain. So it's an interaction between TradFi and blockchain. So we started there in terms of tokenized bond. But then after reading the chapter 3 of last year's annual report, we were inspired by the unified ledger. We really liked the idea. And again, instead of really just talking about it, we try out and take it to the real world. And we launched Project Ensemble, which is basically the same as unified ledger, where we have tokenized asset, which could include financial instruments, but also real-world use cases. In the middle is tokenized deposits or stablecoin, which acts as the private sector settlement layer, and then finally settled by CBDC. And we've invited the private sector to participate, whether it's banks, asset managers, tech companies, etc. Altogether, we've got 20 use cases, very interesting ones, covering 4 themes. One is your traditional financial instruments, like tokenized bond or money market fund, which are easy. The second area is actually corporate liquidity management or corporate payments using tokens. Third area is green, especially in carbon credit. And the fourth area is on trade finance, which I like the most, which is about e-bills of lading, tokenizing all the trade documents to make it more transparent and fraud-proof, so as to facilitate SMEs to get trade finance. So all these are ongoing, and they're about to come to an end. And in about 2 months' time, in our FinTech Week, we will announce all the results and share the learnings with both the community in Hong Kong and globally. And for the successful ones, what we promised the pilot users is that because when we approached them, they said, well, is it for real? We've done too many pilots and proof of concept. Will you really put it into the real world? So we promised them that if for the successful ones, we will provide a production environment by the end of this year. So very soon, you will see digital bonds, digital MMF coming into the Hong Kong market with straight-through tokenized settlement through tokenized deposit and CBDC. And this is what we have been doing. And because we really thought that tokenization will be a good part of the future financial market. And as I said earlier, if that's our conviction, why not become an early adopter and just try it out instead of just waiting for longer?
Oh, that's wonderful, right? It's also a building block approach. You hear something, you see a concept, you try, you move forward. But I also like, you came back to this idea, what is success? Success is also being too, you said it earlier, being too late,
right.
But also being too early has also its difficulties, right? Because no one is ready. So, yeah. But it is an ongoing dialogue right. With developments around you. So we will definitely looking forward to hearing your lessons learned of that project. So we'll all be waiting for that. Let me now turn a little bit, and I'll turn first to Martin on, let's move a little bit to AI. The Swiss financial sector more generally, and the SNB has also done quite a bit, has been actively embracing AI for tasks like risk assessment and fraud detection. What has been your experience in leveraging AI applications so far?
So you just mentioned fraud detection. So to my knowledge, this is already now almost standard in the financial system. We have it now since a few years. And I also have to say, because we only use it for our customers, like the government and some other entities. We don't use it in the RTGS system. So not every payment in Switzerland is monitored with the system. For good reasons, because if we would do this would also come with some responsibility for the central bank, and we would take some responsibility from the banks to the central bank, and we are very cautious in going this direction. I would not exclude it, but we are very cautious in going in this direction. So other than that, we have a broad range of use cases for AI at the Swiss National Bank. For example, in monetary policy, just discussed a paper this week with experts. They are using AI for sentiment analysis. Mm-hmm. They read all the newspapers, all the articles that come out in Switzerland on a daily basis, and create an indicator with this for GDP. And apparently this works quite well. So it's really a decent forecast of GDP in Switzerland. Another example would be in financial stability. Also there, reading social media posts, maybe not all, but a lot of social media posts, and then maybe finding some signals that there could be a problem in the financial system. So this is really like a monitoring system for financial stability. And then, also, of course, also in financial markets, it's important. Also there we do sentiment analysis, because the Swiss franc is a safe haven, and when there is the sentiment is bad in the financial markets, the Swiss franc appreciates. When it's good, then the Swiss franc depreciates. So this AI is reading systematically the analyst reports, and then scores them and see if what's the sentiment is for the Swiss franc. Is it positive or a negative one? So, and this is really sentiment analysis. I think this is really has been very successful overall. What we also do is actually really one of the core of our mandate is inflation forecast. We have a machine learning, so it's not a LLM, it's machine learning for the short-term inflation forecast. And what we see there, it really improves the forecast over the next months that we do. So it's to achieve all these projects, and it's typically it's not the governing board or management that comes up with these ideas. Typically it's staff, it's the experts, and therefore it's very important to have an environment in the bank that is conducive to such ideas, also an environment where people try to experiment with such ideas, and where they also have like internal IT environment where they can experiment and do these projects. Because as a central bank, as you know, data security is very important, and because we cannot have a failure in data security, because it's about trust in the end, central banking, and therefore we have to be careful there. This means that we have to provide the experts with an internal solution where they can do these experiments and their projects.
I like it. It comes back to the idea you need both the skills and the mindset to move forward with innovation. Thank you so much, Martin. Let me now turn to Eddie. You have also, my understanding, you've also moved into GenAI with a GenAI sandbox. Do you want to tell us a little bit what your experience is?
Right. Well, the GenAI sandbox is what we introduced for the banking sector to try out their GenAI use cases. We did it together with the Cyberport, which is a government innovation hub in Hong Kong. It offers two things. One is a risk control, safe environment for the banks to try out where they can get almost real-time regulatory feedback from us. And the second thing is really about innovation has to be inclusive, because when it comes to GenAI, you need to have quite a lot of computing power in order to be able to use it. The smaller banks, they're not ready. But the Cyberport is actually providing free computing resources for the smaller banks to try out before they actually make the investments to acquire all these computing resources. And we've got very good response from the industry. We've got something like 20, 30 applications. We selected 10. Covering anything, from back office to customer interaction to AML, fraud detection, etc. Again, it's coming to the end, and we will be putting out a report for sharing with the industry in the next quarter. But just a feeler about the things that these banks will be sharing with the rest of the industry. It's a bit operational, not really grand, but even mundane, but they are important if banks want to scale up GenAI usage. Things like, one, data readiness. When they start to use GenAI, you need high quality data. For example, if you do use GenAI for AML, you need loads of AML reports, transaction histories on an ongoing basis. If you use human to turn the unstructured data into AI readable form, it's very cumbersome. One bank actually tried out using AI to do the formatting, and they are going to share that with the others, how to do it. The second is how to think about model evaluation. Because for the use of GenAI, unlike the UAT that we very often have, it's either pass or fail. But for the use of GenAI, it's a very multi-dimensional type of metric that you have to use, including accuracy, completeness, reliability, and it has to be done on an ongoing basis because consistency is important. Your chatbot may give an answer to you one way, and then the next day, the chatbot may give you the other. So how to measure success for these applications is something that they're going to share. The third one is more difficult. The feedback from the banks is that while the methodology for ensuring accuracy, privacy, security are already quite ready in market, what they are lacking and facing challenge is explainability of AI, which is quite fundamental to trust in the use of AI in the banking system. And that's actually why we're very glad that we're partnering again with the BIS Innovation Hub on a project to create, to research into the possibility of having an explainable AI toolkit so that we can provide a bespoke AI model auditing prototype for both the banks and regulators to oversee AI-driven banking operations. And from this GenAI sandbox, I thought it's actually beneficial in two ways for our banking industry. One is it accelerates the adoption of GenAI. First, they can try out in a sandbox. And second, when you see your neighbor doing that, you are forced to do it. And second, it encourages collaboration. By sharing their learnings, for the 10 banks in the sandbox, they actually share almost day to day. And we get the AI service providers to work very closely with them from ideation to prototype to actually making the applications in the sandbox. Very shortly, we'll be starting, we have already started applications for our next sandbox, the second sandbox. This time, we've got even more applicants, 60 banks want to do it. We'll screen in 20. But this time, we're encouraging banks to also include one thing, which another bank tried out in the last cohort, which is AI versus AI. Basically, using AI to address some of the risks arising from the adoption of AI itself. There are at least two use cases already given to us. One is using AI to detect deepfake in their banking operations, whether it's face recognition or identity documents. Second is to use AI to check or QA AI outputs. If you think about an AI chatbot, you really can't sort of track their performance hour by hour. If you use a human to do that, you sample check. But if you use an AI to quality check the other AI chatbot, it's ongoing. So these are the kind of new things that they might try out in our next cohort. So I think it's actually quite interesting developments.
I hadn't thought about this because in my introductory remark, I said there's one thing about AI is AI doesn't know what it doesn't know. But I guess if you ask one AI what the other AI doesn't know, maybe you'll get a little bit further. Very, very good. Look, I find it really, really fascinating. We have about 8 minutes left. I want to finish up with the word collaboration. And in both of you, can you talk to us a little bit, whether it's not technology specific, but what has been your experience about the role of collaboration, but also the importance, how can we improve it? But I want to come back to, of course, cross-border, this is what, the BIS we do with you, but also even domestically, or even here, right? The importance of mixing up different groups of people. Are there anything you want to tell us about the importance or the limitation, right? About collaboration domestically and of course also internationally. So maybe Martin, if you can stay, and then we'll come to Eddie.
So collaboration is absolutely crucial. And here the Innovation Hub is really very, very helpful. For example, the Swiss Center here in Basel and in Zurich. So we have staff there from the SMB, and we have staff from the BIS, and we have even some assignees, secondees. And this working together, this collaboration is already extremely fruitful. So this is the collaboration within the center, but then also the collaboration between the centers is really important. I just took part in a meeting of all the center heads a few months ago, and this was also very interesting. And this collaboration is absolutely crucial. But then it's also the collaboration beyond that. This means collaboration with the private sector, of course. It's collaboration with other international organizations, like, for example, we had in Promissa with the World Bank. And of course, also academia, we should not forget, and they can contribute a lot also to this collaboration. Many of the projects that we have in the Innovation Hub are collaborative by nature. For example, what we had is this Promissa I just mentioned. This is together with the World Bank and other central banks. But then also Jura that we had with the Banque de France was very collaborative. And of course also the PINE project with several central banks working on implementation. So I think collaboration is part of the DNA of the BIS itself, but also of the Innovation Hub. And it's with this this collaboration actually is the big success factor of the BIS and the Innovation Hub.
And I think the BIS definitely echoes this. The importance of having also centers that are regionally located is also very important, right? Because the regulatory and legal framework can be different. The risk culture can be very different. So having this and for the BIS, I think has been also very key in helping us moving forward. What are your perspective on this?
Well, I absolutely agree that collaboration is important. Let me start with domestic. There are different layers of collaboration that is important. I'll just take Ensemble as one example. Here, we did not start with invitations for use case. We actually started with creating what we call an architecture community, comprising us, the tech firms, the banks, asset managers, and also the academia, to try to work out some kind of common standards for the blockchain development in Hong Kong, so that in our tokenization ecosystem, there could be interoperability across all levels. In the form of, for example, if different banks have digital bond issuance platform, can they actually talk to each other? And whether the digital asset layer can actually be interoperable with the tokenized deposit layer. So early engagement about some form of common standard is important. Of course, another layer of collaboration is with the other regulators. Because, for example, digital asset regulation, crypto is done by Securities Commission and stablecoin is done by us. And the two are actually very, very related, and there's got to be a lot of coordination and agreement on where to go. Fortunately, the current chairman, CEO of our Securities Commission, she came from the HKMA. So we're good friends, and it's easy to talk in one voice. But that collaboration is very important. But apart from domestic collaboration, I would say that cross-border, both through the BIS Innovation Hub and some of them are done bilaterally, are extremely important. Again, taking Ensemble as one example, the tokenization use cases that we talk about can actually involve cross-border applications. Not just the trading of tokenized assets like digital bonds or digital MMF, but also think about the real economy use cases like trade finance that involve cross-border usage, and it requires cross-border interoperability that counts on collaboration. And we are actually we've started several pilot projects with Thailand, which is mainly on trade finance and carbon credit, with Brazil on trade finance, and with Banque de France on DVP and PVP. And I hope that the learning from these pilots eventually could generate some form of more common standard for interoperability across cross-border tokenization use cases. So absolutely, collaboration is key.
I love the word you use, and I'm going to keep it now. It's not a new word, but the architecture. You need to create an architecture community. I love it because architecture gives the idea of a building blocks, right? And the community it needs to be done together. So we're drawing to the end of this panel, which I have really found very fascinating. So I want to thank you. But I'm not going to try to summarize it, but some key takeaways that I have really. It is really impressive to see. It is a delicate balance that central banks need to have, right? You need to charge into technology. As you say, there is also a risk of being laggards. You need to move forward, but you need to do it in a safe way. What I found really interesting is the many guardrails you have to create, but a lot is about the mindset. A lot is about the people, and that's the way. And it is also about allowing failure, right? Or at least celebrating the path and not only the output. And in all of this, I think the collaboration, the collaborative spirit that allows us to move forward and draw lessons from everything we've done. So I want to really thank you for these very deep insights into how do we move forward in a safe innovation, and I really hope we can all draw further lessons, and we'll be looking forward to your next projects and lessons that we learn from what you do individually and of course together. So a big round of applause for Eddie and Martha. Thank you.